Yeah, set in mid-century, so all of the interior design, the offices, the apartments, the houses is just classic.
Yeah.
Just good vibes. I love it. Don Draper, badass character. Absolutely loved him for about 2 or 3 seasons.
Okay.
Then it turns out he is an incredible piece of shit.
Madison Avenue, what a gas.
We all have to serve somebody.
Perpetuating a lie. How do you sleep at night?
A bed made of money.
Isn't this an education?
You hucksters in your tower created religion of mass consumption.
People want to be told what to do so badly that they'll listen to anyone.
When you say people, I have a feeling you're talking about thou.
And I have a feeling that you spent more time on your hair this morning than she did.
Welcome to the iKnowBadeaux podcast.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the iKnowBadeaux podcast coming at you from the Slice on Oak Studios. I'm Mayor Dave Badeaux of the city of Brainerd, and with me, as always, is my brother.
Go away, Baton.
Gabriel Johnson, save us.
Dave?
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing, sir?
I am feeling great. I'm ready to get into this.
Are you? Should we do this?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Be Kind Rewind. 2007. So we are coming to the end of the Be Kind Rewinds. We have this episode here. We have next episode, which is part 2, the movies of 2007. And then our final Be Kind Rewind for the moving forward will be 2008. After that, we're going to go all the way back to 1977, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. We talked about it a little bit. We've already kind of been planning.
So many serial killers.
77 fucks. 77 hard. But we kind of talked about how, you've got Star Wars. Star Wars really is a tentpole that changes cinema, and we're still kind of feeling those effects. But there's so many other things that happened then as well. So we're going to go back to that. So we've got one more of these moving in the 2000s. If you've got information to send us, go right ahead and get us set on that mission. But today is all about the year 2007. How do you guys feel about 2007?
I don't remember much of it.
Really? College? What were you doing?
I was 19.
You were 19. Yeah, you were 19. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's when I was going to guitar school.
Oh, yeah. You went to super expensive guitar school. You went to super expensive guitar school. I went to super expensive Pretty Pictures school. Neither of us are doing...
I make pizza.
you make pizza, and I run a nonprofit and a city.
You still make music, though.
I make art.
Yeah. You make art. But 2007, interesting year. I was very interested to see where this would go because I knew right off the top, we're talking iPhone, we're talking some of those things. But as we dug into it, I was very happy with how this year shook out.
Why?
Well, I think much like 77, I think
It was.
2007.
Okay.
Should we get started?
Yeah, I want to see what you like about it.
So right away, let's go ahead and get started with the soundtrack of our lives. 2007, the music. So the last couple of episodes, I had kind of poo-pooed music a little bit in this time frame. And then I realized what I was actually listening to, which was a lot of kind of Southern rock revitalization with your
Black Keys,
White Stripes, until about this time, the Kings of Leon. But I had kind of morphed into getting more into some electronic stuff because I've always been very into beats. It's always I like rap music and R&B music because the sampling is so interesting because it goes the breadth of music.
Sure.
But specifically, I've always really enjoyed electronic music, especially coming from the late 90s.
Yeah.
We got into...
There may have been ecstasy involved.
Listen, Bone Thugs and Harmony ran a whole song about it. I don't even fuck with weed no more.
Man, I don't even with the weed no more, man.
Electronic music is very interesting, and in this time frame, things started to get a little funky. This is when, again, we talked about it last episode, but 2007 is when In Rainbows came out, which is Radiohead.
Yes.
Almost forgot.
Uh-huh.
It is Radiohead, and it is the album that they put online and you could purchase for whatever you wanted.
So we talked about this. Why were we talking about this if this was 2007?
So we talked about it because 2006 to me was the end of CDs. This is the defining moment. In Rainbows to me is the defining moment of CDs are no longer anything that I'm interested in. And it is true with every bit of music that I consumed after that, it was just purchasing it off of iTunes, mostly just songs, which is kind of a changing of the guard as well. Like you used to get an album, enjoy the album.
Yep.
Now you're purchasing a song for $1.
Which is terrible.
Which
is absolutely terrible. It destroys the art.
It does, yeah. But it also then allowed for some little bit of funkiness to some of this stuff too. I love In Rainbows. I went back and listened to it. The very beginning of that album is pretty cool. It gets a little floaty towards the end. You know, it's one of those that like starts off kind of, oh, here we go. And then by the end, you're like, are we trying to have a lullaby here? Or what are we doing?
Yeah, now you're just in a tornado of reverb.
Which is Radiohead to a T.
But it's good.
It is good.
But they were trying to sidestep the record labels,
Yeah.
right? And just go direct to consumer with it, which was brilliant, I think.
Isn't that the Tesla model?
It's the Tesla model.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Prince never got into that because I don't think any musician in history hated the labels as much as he did. But he never got into the direct-to-consumer game.
Yeah, you would think like maybe Dr. Dre, very vocal about his distaste for it. But yeah, you're right. You would think that they would, because once this happened, you would have thought that a lot more musicians would have done it because it proved to be very viable.
Right, especially established musicians. You have your following.
Yeah.
Proved to be viable for Radiohead.
This is true.
Not for the goons down the street.
Yeah, but this is the time frame when like even your comedians started trying to do this stuff as well. Like in a couple of years, you start to see the Louis C.K.'s of the world that released their stuff just directly on their website as well. So it was a complete changing of the guard. And and you're even sidestepping iTunes as well. Like here's iTunes. I'm not even going to go that route. We're going to go, you want it? Just come and get it. And the way that iTunes worked was that you could plug in music just off of whatever you had on your computer. So they didn't have a monopoly.
Or they plug in whatever they got.
Yes, they can plug in whatever they want.
Or they just put U2 on your phone.
That's
what I'm saying.
Yeah, they can just give you U2. I don't want to listen to U2. Do you want to know what the problem I have right now with my phone is? So I have one song in my Apple Music folder, and it is, oh God, what is it even freaking called now? I'm going to forget what it's called.
Is it by U2?
I don't have it. No, it is not by U2.
Ram Jam's Black Betty, 1977.
I wish it was Ram Jam Black Betty. 5 Seconds of Summer, the song Young Blood. So at some point I had downloaded this for my son Maverick, and we would play it before his basketball games. But now it is the only song on my phone that is in Apple Music. So anytime I start my car, the fucking thing
just connects.
It connects.
Oh, that's karma if I've ever heard it, dude. What did you used to do to your father-in-law?
That's exactly what I did to my father-in-law, where he would turn the truck on and it would play freaking Welcome
Danger
to Danger Zone.
All right,
Kenny Loggins. It is literally exactly that. Apple refuses to let me start my car without immediately playing Young Blood. And then the little ones in the back love it. So every time I shut it off, because I mean, we're talking, I've had this car for 10 years. This
has been a lot of renditions.
How have you not fixed that?
At least download Danger
one
Zone.
more song. Yeah.
Because if you want to get deep into my psyche, it bothers me so much, and then I drive wherever I'm going and I shut the car off and I'm done with it. And then I get back in my car and I completely forget to change it. Anyways, so yes, Apple does do that. But if we're talking music from 2007, I'm going to throw these ones out really quick because I just think they're kind of interesting. LCD Soundsystem.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
I don't know where to begin.
This is very much in the weirdness of what I was listening to at that point.
Sure.
A lot of Beck, a lot of LCD Soundsystem type stuff. MIA Paper Airplanes came out as well. I love that song. That's one of those songs.
That song is great.
Yes. Beyond that, gonna pass.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be a huge one-hit wonder.
Oh, for sure.
That could have been a huge one-hit wonder. Yeah.
That would have been a good one.
That's a really good one. Yeah. But there's just kind of this interestingness to this time frame in music in which it was very exploratory.
Sure.
And then I think it becomes much less exploratory in the next handful of years.
Much less exploratory?
I think so. I think it becomes very formulaic very quickly.
Yeah, you get Taylor Swift like in 2008.
Yeah, it very cool. Yeah,
that's just music.
Very
Taylor Swift, Adele. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, I watched a clip of the guy from LCD Soundsystem talking about pop culture and pop music and how like he really wished that it would kind of take a shift, you know, and this is the music I like making, and he kind of caught that perfect time frame. And then, like you had said, they hadn't even thought about LCD Soundsystem in a decade, probably.
Yeah.
But I'm going to throw out an album real quick that I absolutely love and I think is probably the best album of 2007, and that is Kanye West Graduation.
That might be his best album.
I think so.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
Is this the one that had the Zach Galifianakis
You're jumping
music
too
video?
far ahead. That was my one fun fact. So, do we want to just jump right into that?
Well, we have to now.
Oh, you're such an asshole. I was going to talk about Kanye West and the album because there's some really cool songs on there. However, this absolutely is the Zach Galifianakis Can't Tell Me Nothing music video.
Wait till I give my money right.
So I, at this point, had just saw Zach Galifianakis live in Minneapolis. This is before Hangover. So Zach Galifianakis is not a huge name at this point. I knew him, and most people knew him from Out Cold.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then you probably remember his very small role in the movie Bubble Boy.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you don't need to see it? Actually, you know what? I take that back. Put it on the list of movies we're going to do a full breakdown of.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's in like a toll booth or something at some point. So Bubble Boy is Jake Gyllenhaal, and he's
right.
Yeah. But there's a point where Zach Galifianakis is in a toll booth or something. Anyways, but I had just saw Zach Galifianakis in Minneapolis doing stand-up, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I like that guy. We should go. Let's go see him. I think he's funny. And it was honestly the best stand-up the best stand-up experience I think I've ever had. In that, totally blew my mind. In here's a guy that I know a little bit about, but I don't really know a lot about his style, and then just fully being, this is my style of comedy.
Sure.
That is the same set that he did from Live from the Purple Onion, which came out in 2006.
Okay.
So I don't know if I saw it after that came out or before that. It's got to be around the time. Typically, you tour with that material, then release the thing. So I probably saw him in 2006, but we're coming fresh off of this. Kanye West released his album, and in July of 2007, he has Zach Galifianakis make a music video for Can't Tell Me Nothing.
Excuse me, was you saying something? You can't tell me nothing.
So he had already released a music video for this. It's very 2000s rap. They're on a dry lake bed in California. There's a bunch of curtains blowing in the wind behind him, a giant black cape or something.
Swiping credit cards up butt cracks.
I don't think this is it's not quite a tip drill. This is post tip drill. But you've got your standard music video, and then he just happens to see Zach Galifianakis doing stand-up, asks him if he'll do a music video, and Zach just makes a music video on his farm in North Carolina, and it is maybe one of the best things that's ever happened.
It's pretty good.
They say I talk with so much emphasis. Ooh, they so sensitive.
It is just Zach Galifianakis and I forget who the other guy's what the other guy's name is, but they are just on his farm riding farm equipment and lip syncing to Kanye West.
For fun.
For fun.
Let me know if it's a problem then. Alright, man, holla then.
Kanye West is not in the music video at any point. There's no reference to Kanye West. It is just Zach Galifianakis looking a lot like he's an Amish guy in most of it. And at one point looking like he's on the Golden Girls.
Yeah, he could pull both those off pretty easy.
He does a very good job of it. But it is hilarious and super funny that Kanye West is just kind of always ahead of the game on things. You know, like this is right before Zach Galifianakis blew up. So he sees this guy, that guy's going to be a star, make me a music video. And I think they just originally just released it to like his website. But of course, in that time, you know, videos were starting to take off and become a huge thing as well. And it's awesome.
Agreed.
Yeah. That was going to be my ending to the Kanye West talk. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Honestly, it's freaking hilarious, and it's just him riding a tractor. So, but let's go back. Let's talk about the album in general. You've got a lot of bangers on there. I think it has the best version of Daft Punk's "Stronger."
Okay.
So I like Daft Punk's song, but it's not anywhere near as cool as it is on Kanye West sampling. They did release a live version of it that is really banger. Go check that out. There's a live version from 2007 that is really fucking sweet. But the song "Stronger" on Kanye West's album is a better version of Daft Punk's song.
He could probably make a better version of most songs.
I would say he does.
Yeah.
I would argue that he does, yeah. And samples the wildest stuff. Just stuff from all over the place.
Man, I've been waiting all night, man. That's how long I've been on you.
One of the songs, though, on the album as well is called Barry Bonds.
Oh.
And so let's take this time to transition, shall we? Because
in 2007,
yes,
Barry Bonds passed Hank Aaron for the all-time lead in home runs hit in his career.
Which was like 30 years, wasn't it?
It was 70s. Yeah, it was almost probably exactly 30 years.
Yeah.
And Barry Bonds was juicing.
No.
Also in 2007, the Mitchell Report was released like near the end of the year, after the season was over, after everybody celebrated Barry Bonds.
Yeah, after they let him do it.
And it turns out
everybody
was using steroids.
Yes.
Everybody was using steroids. And the MLB knew, and they made billions of dollars, right? But none of these assholes who were using the drugs the league wanted them to use are being allowed into the Hall of Fame.
It is pretty crazy.
Except Bud Selig, who was the commissioner of the MLB, is in baseball's Hall of Fame. He let everybody use steroids. He encouraged people to use steroids. Implicitly encouraged them to use steroids.
Yeah.
And then they're all now banned for life. And
that's absolutely crazy.
It's
I think
Woo, rich people.
I think it's weird when the owners and the commissioners put themselves in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like when the owners get into the Hall of Fame, like have your own thing, right? It's like, you know, like you already have your rich boy club.
You didn't hit any home runs.
No. I mean, you signed the checks, right? You rigged the rules, right? But yeah, you were also turning your head the other direction and then wagged your finger real hard and real fast once people are like, no, we don't like steroids. Oh, you don't like steroids? Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
no, boys.
You are in trouble.
Yeah.
But Barry Bonds, specifically, maybe the best baseball player ever. In the 90s, he was a little guy. He was like Ricky Henderson, right?
Yeah.
Stole a lot of bases.
Very fast.
But hit a lot of home runs, too.
Yeah.
It was after like Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were obviously juicing, and he's like, well, these guys, I could hit more home runs if I started doing that. So he did, and he hit way more home runs than they did.
Well, and that's what's crazy about it because he was such a good hitter to start with. And there's some awesome videos out there of pitchers talking about trying to face him and like what you try to do.
God, I just watched one of Greg Maddox.
The Greg,
Oh man, I was gonna send that to you guys.
Yeah,
That's a great matchup.
Greg Maddox talking about pitching is awesome. Barry Bonds talking about hitting is awesome. The two of them talking about the same at bat is maybe the best content that's out there. But you're absolutely right. Like he's hitting the ball, but everyone else every time they touch the ball is going over the fence, and so then he consumes steroids, and every single time he touched the ball, it went over the fence.
When out of the stadium, when you get to McCovey Cove.
Yes. Which is interesting too because the Hack-a-Shack, right? So you had the Hack-a-Shack in basketball, and then you had Bonds where you just wouldn't let him hit.
Right.
They would intentionally walk him with the bases loaded.
Yes. Give up a run. Give up a run instead of 4. Yeah.
There's somebody does a breakdown. I don't know if it's John Boyce.
Probably.
He does a breakdown of the season where he calculates the plus or minus of walking him. Like I can't remember exactly what it is, but
Interesting.
But the science behind what the other team gained versus what would have happened if Barry Bonds never swung the bat.
Yeah.
For the entire season, if he never swung the bat, what would have happened?
Yeah.
Versus
That would be
them
interesting
walking
analysis
him.
because he was walked hundreds of times a season.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And we don't talk a lot about sports, which we should talk a little bit more about sports from time to time. But this is one of those things where it's just an iconic moment. You're breaking a 30-year-old record in the thing that is the most fun in baseball. Aside from maybe the collisions at home plate, which they took away.
That's gone now.
It's
too.
gone. That was the best. That was maybe the best. But the home run is just an iconic moment, is the slam dunk of baseball. Instant runs. And it is one of those where when you hit it.
I'd throw a hat in the ring for stealing home.
Stealing home, well, but that's so infrequent though.
But it's so cool when it happens.
Yeah. But you get like one every, series if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Probably one every season per team, maybe.
At most.
Yeah, at most. But yeah, the home run, the thing about it too is it's much like one of the smartest things the NBA did was put the microphone on the net. So you get that, that sound. And then with
swoosh,
the swoosh. Yeah. We should talk about that sometime. That's a good draft. Best noises in sports. The doink,
the crack of a bat,
the crack of the bat on a home run, the doink, the 3-pointer, the slam dunk,
the double doink,
the double doink,
slap shot.
Yeah, but it is such an iconic thing when you hear that crack of the bat and you know it's gone, and especially playoff baseball when the fans erupt. There's really nothing like that. And then to say like, hey, by the way, you're never getting into the Hall of Fame because we made lots of money off you, but you don't count. My favorite photo from this time frame, it was my screensaver forever, was somebody threw a syringe on the field at Barry Bonds, and he's looking at it with this look of disgust while he's like getting walked or whatever.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite photos because the syringe is just kind of floating in the air, and he's got this look of just like I could laser eye that fucking thing.
Getting a little roid rage.
Just a tiny bit.
But by the end of his career, he was still hitting dingers and using roids, but he played in the National League. They didn't have a designated hitter back then. He couldn't bend over and pick the ball up.
Is that
He played left field. He could not field the ball. He was just so gigantic.
Well, then he had a cane because it just wrecked his. Your bones aren't meant to carry that kind of weight around.
Yeah.
Deals. And Bonds hits one high. Hits it deep. It is out of here.
So yeah, I mean, steroids are
Just
terrible.
like Andre the Giant yourself.
Yeah. Steroids are terrible. They really are bad for you. But God damn it, like the '90s wrestling, pretty fucking sweet. Pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
They were doing some shit that nobody can do anymore.
Well, they had to shift from being gigantic humans to like, oh, now we got to have the little tiny guy because we can't have the super speed.
And then Eddie Guerrero died of a heart attack anyway.
7:56.
Well, let's make a shift though, because also from 2007, you've got some wrestling news as well. Tragic.
Chris Benoit passed away.
Yes.
Was drug tested about a week before he died. Passed it. no steroids.
Okay.
Autopsy report, chock full of steroids.
Oh.
But he's largely remembered as technically one of the top 5 or 10 wrestlers of all time. He was a great wrestler. His signature move was to get onto the top rope and then jump off and headbutt somebody, like a swan dive with his head first into somebody.
No, imagine.
Yeah. So in June of 2007, he killed his wife
Yes.
and his son
Yes.
and himself in what was probably a fit of roid rage.
Probably.
The autopsy also looked at his brain. He had the brain of like a 90-year-old with dementia and Alzheimer's. Like there was just nothing there. So much CTE from
Diving head first into people.
first onto people. So it was a tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just because we talked about this, and so I pulled up some videos and stuff, and there's like the 911 calls where the head of security, I think, for WWE calls, because I think he lived in Atlanta.
So, Georgia.
Yeah, so they're like in New York, and he calls to Georgia and says like, "Hey, we just need to do a well check." He sent out a message that said the door's open, the dogs are in the backyard, something like that. And so super tragic and super sad, especially because it kills his wife and his kid.
And he killed his wife on the 22nd, his son on the 23rd, and himself on the 24th. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really too bad. They're I don't know. The heads are so weird, right? Especially something like that where you just continually have concussion after concussion after concussion, and they weren't taking breaks, right?
They were wrestling 5-6 nights a week back then.
Yeah. So he's gonna do his finisher, and he's gonna splash down with his skull, and then he's gonna get up the next day and he's gonna do it again. And 90-year-old though.
Tragic.
Yeah.
That's about as much brain trauma as you can get, is every night diving off the top rope head first into somebody.
Well, and it's compounding, right? It's you have the concussion and you need like 2 weeks, sometimes longer. I think what was it, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. said it was like 5 years or something where he finally started to feel normal.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he slammed into walls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
200 miles an hour.
Yeah. But yeah, so you can't just go the next night and do it again and do it again and do it again. And these guys, the way that their contracts worked, they couldn't afford to take the night off. Hey, I have a headache.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that would have went? Can't tonight, boys. A little headache here.
Yep, and sit this one out.
Yeah.
My name is Dennis Fagan. I'm a retired detective in New York City. I run the security for World Wrestling, and one of our wrestlers that lives down there is missing. And he told me to say we need a welfare check done.
All right, Dennis, what's your last name?
Fagan, Fagan.
And what's his name?
Chris Benoit. It's spelled Benoit.
Okay, and he's a wrestler?
Yes, what happened, he's a very religious gentleman, and yesterday he was supposed to show up at a pay-per-view and never got on the plane, never showed up. They've tried to reach his wife, Nancy. She doesn't answer. They tried to call his house. It's out of character for him. So at 3 o'clock this morning, there was a message left for one of the other wrestlers, and basically it says, the dogs are in the backyard, the back door is open, goodbye. And that was it.
But there's a lot of interesting conspiracy theories.
Okay.
That maybe they were murdered.
Ooh.
And not killed. And it wasn't Chris.
Interesting.
I'm not going to go into too many details on them. You can look them up if you want. The one tidbit I found most interesting is the bodies were discovered on June 26th. There was a Wikipedia article edit on June 25th, tracing back to Connecticut, where WWE is headquartered, saying Chris Benoit missed such and such a match due to his wife's untimely death.
Really?
The day before they were discovered.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was done in Connecticut.
Done in Connecticut.
God, the internet's interesting. I don't know how deep down that well I want to get, because potentially you're then taking a tragedy and shifting it, but at the same time, like, that's wild.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. They were supposed to have a match. I think they were in like Texas or something.
Yep.
And so the stadium is empty. Vince McMahon's in the middle of the ring middle of the ring, and they do a 3-hour in memoriam, of it. So,
and that was before they knew the details.
Yes,
like they knew he had passed, and they did a whole celebrate Chris night, and then like a couple days later, the details came out, and it's like, oh, we're just going to scrub him from everything in history.
Yeah. Well,
Fun.
super fun. God, 2007. I told you.
A lot of roids.
Well, technically that was a bombing because he was hitting dingers. Those are bombs. Mm-hmm. All right, should we shift out of? Actually, no. I take it back. We're going to stay in news for just a second. You guys got half a second for news?
Yeah.
We're going to talk iPhone real quick, folks.
Change the world.
And we have invented a new technology called multi-touch, which is phenomenal. It works like magic. You don't need a stylus. It's far more accurate than any touch display that's ever been shipped. And boy, have we patented it.
Very few things change the world to the amount that the iPhone changed the world. So you say that, and I think most of the time I would say, in this case, absolutely changed the world. A device.
Maybe as much as anything since the printing press.
Potentially, yeah. So we before we got started, I said, there's a reason why I wanted to stop at like 2008, because 2007 is the iPhone. And to me, once you get to the iPhone, we're out of nostalgia. We're into the current world.
We're in a completely new era.
We're basically in 2008 still.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I was watching some stuff on the iPhone and what Apple had hoped to do. I didn't see what the actual numbers were, but their goal was 1% market saturation with the iPhone in the first year, which would have been 10 million units. So in the grand scheme of things, that's still not taking over the world, even if you still, that's just 1% of cell phones, right? And I didn't look to see if they actually hit that. I know that they did very, very well, but by 2008, everything had shifted because now all of the other companies are trying to catch up, and everything turned into an iPhone or an iPhone-like phone. Very crazy, though, because what we were having before that was a war for how could your phone flip? Which way could your phone flip?
Does it slide here? Does it slide to the side? Yep.
I had Sprint at the time, and my phone was a Samsung that slid up. So kind of like, what was the one that was big?
The BlackBerry?
Well, the BlackBerry was like more of a squat looking thing. This was kind of like a flip phone, but you just pushed it sideways.
Yeah.
And then it had a keyboard on it.
I had that one. The keyboard, I slid down and the keyboard popped out.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And actually, when I got my iPhone, I missed the keyboard. I loved the keyboard on that thing because it slid. It was just.
I still hate typing on flat screens.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I might be the only person on the planet that misses T9.
Okay. Yes, probably.
T9. I could drive my car and not look at a damn thing. With one thumb moving around, click, 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 send exactly what I needed to send.
That's awesome. So at this point, everyone is trying to figure out different ways of having the different keyboards. And in their presentation, Apple talks about that. It's like once you have the keyboard, you're stuck with that keyboard or that format until you get a new phone. So you can't change it. So that was their big thing, was the interface should be able to change. And it was very unique in that they created a format that was adaptable. And as they said, in 10 years, if you want to have it be something different, it can be something different and it can still be the same phone.
Except we're Apple, so in 10 years, we're going to make sure this phone doesn't work because you will have had to have purchased 3 since then.
Yes, because they will slowly start not having as good of a battery, and they will tell you it's because they want to make sure that the processing has, that your processing power is slowing down. But we need to make sure that it's ramped up, and that'll reduce your battery. And
yeah, we're gonna just push an update that maximizes all of your storage space and ability to use your phone.
Yes, we are going, and this happened because I have a Mac Mini as well. And it runs perfectly fine, except for the fact that the operating system is like 500 gigs, and there's only 500 gigs on the fucking thing.
Yep.
So you took my computer and made it impossible to use because I can't upgrade it anymore but you made the operating system so big that it can't even be used. And that's exactly why they do that.
Designed in California.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's chat for a minute, right? So what kind of phone were you guys rocking before you got an iPhone?
I don't know if it was the one with the sliding keyboard or if it was maybe the Motorola Sliver.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't get an iPhone. I was not an early adopter. I waited until, I don't know, Galaxy or whatever was my first smartphone.
Yep. Sure.
I don't remember. I know, obviously, I had the Nokia brick, which is the best phone of all time.
Absolutely.
And then after that, I had some Sprint flip, pull up the antenna nonsense. And then I think I don't know if it was a BlackBerry or it was something similar to a BlackBerry where it had the screen and then not like the full keyboard, but I don't know.
Yeah, like a little bit of a keyboard. The one thing that drives me the most crazy about the iPhone is I want a button that I can just go back one letter in the goddamn text. Just back one letter. Because there's so many times where, especially when we're posting like our videos online.
Do you have a backspace button?
Yes and no, right? Like on the keyboard, you can delete, but I don't think there's a backspace button on the keyboard when it's pulled up, is there?
So you hold the space bar.
You hold the space bar and it will go back?
And you drag your finger.
No fucking way.
You don't have that little back
I think
button?
he's saying he has that, but if he like says here and he meant to say gear, he wants to go back there.
You can just slide your finger on the space bar?
Yeah,
Folks,
I just blew
does it
Gabe's
on the
mind.
Galaxy, too.
I just blew Gabe's mind too.
I have been
I have never seen that.
I have been complaining about that since I got an iPhone. I just want to go back one space. Seriously?
Yeah, you just hold.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, make a short of that and put it on the internet. Unbelievable. Yeah, because if that's the case, it's the only thing that I really have a problem with on it.
They solved the problem years ago.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. You know what my favorite part of the presentation was? So if you go back and you watch this presentation, it's super long and it's actually pretty boring, but people get really excited about really basic stuff in it. So they show, like, he picks up the phone, he's going to show him how it works. And he's like, to unlock it, you slide your finger. And the crowd just goes like,
And to unlock the phone, I just take my finger and slide it across. Right? You want to see that again? Go to sleep. We wanted something that you couldn't do by accident in your pocket, and just slide it across. Boom.
It's so enjoyable to watch that because it had never been done before.
Yeah.
How do you unlock your phone? What do you do with this device? You know, is it just in your pocket, always getting clanged around on your change and your car keys?
Well, in the first gen, it still had the button, right?
Yeah, they had the button for quite a while. I think they were probably into 5, maybe 6. I could be completely wrong about that, but so I got mine in probably 2008. I think it was after I got divorced. So this is also the time where I got divorced, which is also why we're stopping at 2008, because it was when I had to actually then become an adult. But no, this fantastic device, really interesting. I do think it absolutely changes where we go. I think it changes. People stopped consuming stuff with their computers and started consuming things with their phones at this point. This is that point.
This is your computer.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
Right. And our kids, they don't have computers.
What's
or
a
anything.
computer?
They use it for word processing for school. Otherwise, everything is on their phone and basically just in YouTube. And that's all you need.
And it is the change. At this point, websites are still a huge thing. We've talked about that. This is the changing of the guard. Websites are going away now. Now we're going to all
They get about
apps.
4 more years.
I was driving out of town a couple of weeks ago, and somebody texted us like a location of a restaurant to meet them for dinner, and I just had my 11-year-old click on the link and read it, but it went to that restaurant's website. He didn't know what that was. I don't know, Dad. But I'm like, well, what's the name of the restaurant? I don't know. I'm not seeing it.
Why is everything not conveniently right here? Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, so it's interesting. I just wanted to add that in real quick. I also thought it was very interesting. So I had remembered AT&T being the only one that had the service, but in going back and watching the thing, it was actually Singular, which was still a thing then and was like the biggest carrier at the point. And then I believe they merged with AT&T, and I think they did right around this time. I think it was right before the iPhone came out. There was a merger of those two, because AT&T, I think, was still just landlines and stuff, business and landlines, and then Singular was the cell phone, and then I think they went together.
Oh, they acquired Singular to have a mobile
I believe
unit.
so, yeah. And so Singular is AT&T now, but it's just crazy that they announce it as Singular, and I didn't remember that at all. So
Now, the first time I ever saw an iPhone, Justin Goebel was an early adopter. He bought one
of course
really early on.
Of course he was.
And we were out somewhere, but he pulled out his phone and he pulled up the Twins game. And we were watching the Minnesota Twins play live on a telephone.
Yep.
And my mind was blown.
Yeah.
But how is that getting there?
Yes.
Right? I didn't understand data or cellular service or any of that crap. No, you could just put anything over cellular tower. Literally anything.
Yes. Yeah, and before,
except for humans, but we'll get there.
And before that, you could pull up videos and stuff on your phone, but it was so clunky and it was so ridiculous.
But it wasn't live streaming a Twins game.
No, and it was grainy and it was terrible, and the sites you went to were terrible. The app to get to the internet was awful. Just a complete change of everything, and I'll give credit to Apple for that. After this, they really go downhill. I mean, like now Apple is kind of annoying to me. I'm an Apple user. When I went to college for graphic design, they pushed us all onto Apple. And so then it was like, well, I just want all my stuff to be the same. So my computer was Apple, my phone was Apple at some point. And then at some point it got to the point where Apple stuff like did not connect to anything anymore. And it's just annoying now.
Like I said, I just bought an iPhone. And it's for my 12-year-old.
Yes.
It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Joe.
Happy birthday.
I can't activate it because I don't use Apple, and he's not 13 years old. So I can't get any of the services turned on. It's like you can't from an Android, you can't from a PC. It's like, no, I have to go buy a fucking Apple.
They're trying to
just so I can turn that phone on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So, but anyways, it changes everything. And again, this is kind of why we're going to stop at 2008, is because I think 2008 is when we get mass adoption to it, and the world just completely becomes the exact same thing for the next 18 years or whatever it is. So, not 18, 16. How many years is it? 25
to now?
Yeah,
that would be 17.
It'd be 17 years. Okay, that's math, folks.
16, 18, 18.
Wait, 16? Wait, 2007?
Yeah. 2007.
Sorry, 18.
Math, folks. All right, let's move on now. Let's get to television. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of this episode. And I'm going to say, so far I've enjoyed what we've had here. However, we try really hard on the iKnowBadeaux podcast to not talk a ton of shit about people's things that they like. But there are some things that Dave Benoit hates. And it's a lot more than the things that Scott Benoit hates. So when we find something that Scott Benoit hates, we are going to hate on it. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there are a lot of people out there that love this show.
I don't know why.
Yeah, my wife's one of them.
However, the show, The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, God.
Maybe Scott's least favorite thing in the history of things.
It sucks. It's the worst. There's nothing good about it.
Well, let's chat about it. Let's just break it down. So for those that have never seen, which has got to be almost nobody, right? Everyone knows what the Big Bang Theory is.
Oh, yeah.
Basic concept, bunch of really smart nerds have an apartment across the hall. Super hot dumb chick has an apartment. That's the show, folks. That's the show. Will they, won't they? Can she, can't she? That's pretty much what it is.
I feel like I haven't really watched that much of it, but I feel like she must get into a relationship with one of them very early on.
I believe,
if not pilot episode or something.
So I don't know. Yeah, because she's over there, right? So
yeah. I think pilot and early on, I think they're fumbling over themselves, not even able to speak to her.
Yes,
kind of stuff.
Well, that's one of the characters. Yeah. One of the damn characters for the first 6 seasons. His main character trait is that he's unable to speak to women physically unless he's drunk.
So
pick it up for a 12th season.
Yeah, that you've created a character in which his entire arc, I guess, is will he or won't he be drunk this episode so he can talk to the girl? And when he can't,
and not just talk, like not just physically mute around a female.
So
incapable of living.
There is an episode I watched, and again, I'm not a consumer of this product. I just don't like it. So I don't know how we got to this point, but there is a clip that I watched last night where evidently Sheldon has a super hot sister at some point.
Okay.
And the nerdy boys are trying to go hit on her, each one of them. And it becomes this guy's turn to go hit on her. And evidently at this point in the show, he has gotten some kind of medication that allows him to talk to the pretty girls.
Okay.
But right as he gets to the door, his medication wears off. And so he starts to stutter, and the Penny, the hot chick, goes, "Oh no, your medication's wearing off." And I was like, "Oh, here we go." I don't even watch this show. And I was like, so now he's just going to be a fumbling idiot, and that's it? That's the joke, folks.
Oh, honey, is your medication wearing off? Well, hi, cutie pie. I was hoping you'd show up.
Terrible. I will say Sheldon is the worst autist on television. I mean, you got superheroes out there like Abed and Deer. You got Michael Scott. You got some good autists around this era. Sheldon ain't one of them.
Yeah. All right. So let's back up super fast, right? So the show is about the nerds. They're super smart. They're in their own little world, can't talk to girls, doing all the like very stereotypical nerds.
Work in a science lab at a university or something.
Yeah. And they each have their own uber nerd category, right? So like this guy is this uber nerd, this guy's this uber nerd. And then Penny is just super stupid blonde chick. And I had always thought she wasn't that hot, but she's pretty hot. So good on her.
She's quite attractive.
Good on her for that.
Yeah, the older I get, the hotter 23-year-old chicks
When I was 23, I didn't think she was that attractive. Now that I'm over 40.
Yeah, true story.
That girl's a looker.
Man,
she looks really soft.
Those blonde. Oh, yeah, don't say that. Don't say that.
No, that was you.
So the problem with the show that I have and that you have said is that there's no jokes.
No, it's just references.
It's just references.
From the day it came out.
Yes.
I remember seeing some of it and laugh tracks in shows are awful.
Yes.
But even with that, watching the show, it's like, what the fuck are you laughing at? Yeah. He just said Spock.
Yes.
He said the name Spock, and everybody cheered and laughed.
The nerd is referencing Star Trek.
Yes, he referenced a thing that I know nerds like to reference. The problem, it's supposed to be a show for nerds about nerds. That's not what it is. It's a show for people to make fun of nerds doing things that people think nerds do.
So that's the problem with this show.
That's a good synopsis.
That's exactly what it is. So this is not a show for smart people. This is a dumb show making fun of smart people and then specifically making fun of nerd culture.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that mix, there's a group in the middle that doesn't quite graft that and is caught up in they're talking about the things that I talk about.
Right.
But they're making fun of you.
Yeah.
They're actually making fun of you. And they're not doing it in a fun way. It's not because there's no punchline to anything. There's never a punchline. You sent me a couple clips where people have went in and just removed the laugh track, and it's just say something, pause.
Yep.
And it's not even with a cadence that could be considered comedic. So I'm a huge fan of Norm Macdonald.
Sure.
Norm Macdonald is all about the rhythm and, comedy is music. You have to put the beats in, but you also have to have the melody that goes with it. If you clip out the laugh track, there is no beat to it. There is no cadence to it. It is just say something, laugh track. Say something, laugh track. what is this comment that I have? Oh, I'm going to the kitchen. Laugh track. That's all it is. They're honestly just describing what's happening in the scene with a laugh track, and then every once in a while they'll do a reference to something, but when they get the big laugh is when they reference two things. It's this and this.
Yeah.
Whoa, mind blown, holy shit.
Disney used it as a battlefield in an ongoing war between the Transformers and the Thundercats for control of a bra I had found in the woods.
I hate this show. You and I are in the same boat. I hate this show. I've tried to like it because I am a nerd. I love nerdy shit. Yes, you are making reference to words that I like, but you saying Thundercats is not funny.
Right.
It's not funny.
But if you group it with Game of Thrones, if you said Game of Thrones and then Thundercats, now we got a joke.
The fate of Doctor Who's TARDIS will be decided by a Game of Thrones-inspired death match on the battlefield of Thundercats versus Transformers.
Bringing down the house.
And it would be
the laugh sign is burning out.
The laugh sign should just be in like a font from different nerdy shit. Yeah, it's frustrating that it's so huge. It was a gigantic show.
Yeah.
And
it won awards.
It won a lot.
Lots of awards.
Lots of awards. And there's no jokes. I think there's very few jokes. I watched a thing that was top 10 funniest moments from Big Bang Theory. And I sat through that whole thing. It was 12 minutes long. And I was like,
somebody tell a joke.
One laugh.
Somebody tell a joke.
I think there was one bit that I was like, okay, there you go. That's something. But anyways, and I hate to shit people's things that they like because,
but they like pretty stuff. It's on them.
It's not a good way to have content out on the internet.
I'll say it, Dave. If you like The Big Bang Theory, stop watching this fucking program.
Unless you're my wife.
No, we absolutely love you. You can hang out. This is a show for Kelly Randall.
My wife.
Yeah, this is a show for them. Like they hear me say these things, and so then she's like, "Yeah, that's funny. I hear you say, Transformers every once in a while."
I like the Transformers. Do you like the Transformers?
Yeah, my wife doesn't watch Big Bang, but she did get into Young Sheldon.
Okay.
So
I
the prequel.
I have not watched Young Sheldon, but I have heard people say that Young Sheldon is a far superior show and that it mainly doesn't have a laugh track.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about it. So
yeah, I think if you get rid of the laugh track, it makes it a lot harder to not be funny. Because otherwise what are we doing here? Right?
Yeah, it's got a wider variety of characters. He's got a drunk grandma who's always encouraging him to,
not be such a nerd.
Yeah. Well, don't get bullied. Fight back kind of shit.
Yeah, not be such a nerd.
Nerds. So let's move on from that. Let's move on from a show that we don't like to a show that we do like.
I love, in fact.
And I actually think is hilarious. Ladies and gentlemen, Flight of the Concords.
Man, back in New Zealand, I was getting it on with lots of chicks.
Who?
Well, Sarah Fitzpatrick, Michelle Fitzpatrick, Claire Fitzpatrick. The list goes on.
Well, that was all of them.
Well, triple figures.
No, that's not triple figures, that's 3.
So good.
Fantastic.
The hardest thing for me in these episodes is I love to put in the theme songs to shows because I think it sets the tone, right?
This has got a good one.
It does have a good one. The problem is that YouTube will flag us for that every time. I have to repost our videos more often than not if I try to put in specifically like Dexter. Holy shit, did it not want me to use the theme song to Dexter at all.
Weird.
It's going to be hard for me with this because the whole show is about their musical act, essentially.
Right. They're in the show. They're just musicians trying to make it.
Yes.
In reality, they're comedians who are also musicians.
Yes.
In the show, they're just trying to make it big as musicians in New York City.
Yeah.
And they suck.
The premiere, debut pilot episode,
okay,
HBO put out on MySpace.
Holy shit.
Wow.
And it had 100,000 views.
Oh, wow. This is probably a record breaker.
This is 2007. That's some big traffic there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in the first season, there were songs that they had already recorded and they wrote the script to match that.
Yep.
In the second season, they wrote the script and then penned the songs to match the story.
Right. And that's part of why we didn't get a season 3 is because for season 1, they already had all the songs.
Yep.
So they just had to make these narratives and try to find a way to fit their songs into this narrative. Versus season 2, they had to write the narrative and the song at the same time.
And then record it.
Yes.
And they each lost like 40 pounds.
Yeah.
It is interesting because it does the 2 seasons. That's a very British thing. This isn't British, it's New Zealand, but it's adjacent.
It was a BBC radio show.
That's exactly
that I
right.
learned about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, probably 40.
That I think is really cool that it started off as a radio show and having that same format, but then basically kind of shifting it a little bit and having it presented to you a little bit more is an interesting way of doing things. Obviously, you can't show them going on a date, in the radio act, but I think it's a cool idea. I think I could get into if like Weird Al did a show on the radio that was a half hour long every week. I think I would kind of enjoy that.
Yeah.
I would tune in. One of my favorite episodes in a throwback to the iPhone that we talked about in this episode is episode 3 of season 1.
Yeah.
Where they get mugged and do the hippopotamus and rhyme it. But when they get mugged, they lose their camera phone, which is a phone with a camera taped to it. That's where technology was in 2007 before the iPhone hit.
My favorite part of that joke is that Brett is like, "Oh, you can't take that. That was a gift." Jermaine's just like, "You can have it."
I made it. It's homemade.
Yeah, it's a piece of shit.
Well, how come Jermaine likes it so much?
You can have it.
Let's go favorite song. Favorite song from the show.
I probably listen to Fuda Fafa the most.
Oh yeah,
I love that one. The rudimentary first year French phrases put into a song.
That is why I like the song Lasagna by Weird Al. It is the same thing.
Yeah.
La maintenant la voyage à la supermarché. Let's take a voyage to the supermarket.
Parlez-vous le français? Parlez-vous le français?
Non.
Ooh, baguette.
Yeah, pamplemousse. There was one time I was, Cammie must have been 5 or 6, and we were playing dolls with Cammie, my wife and I. And at one point, Cammie handed me a little toy croissant or something, and I started reciting the Flight of the Concords song. Je veux tuer un croissant, juste enchanté. And Angie looked at me like, "What the?
Yeah, you speak French?
How long have we been dating and you didn't tell me that you speak perfectly fluent French?" And I said,
a very specific version.
She was like mad. And I let her believe that for a solid couple weeks.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And then she asked you an actual question. Baguette. My favorite is Business Time.
Of course. That's what I was going to go with. Yeah.
I think that's the first one where I was like, okay, this is legitly one of the best things on television.
When he stumbles taking the socks out.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's how you know that they're really good at comedy.
Yes.
When you can turn the song about having sex and then taking off your pants, but you get a little stuck and stumble, and you turn it into a dance. That's part of your song. You guys are geniuses.
Yep. And that's kind of the difference with that season 1 to season 2. Season 1, because the songs existed, you get stuff like that where it's very word heavy. It's very much in the lyrics. And then season 2 becomes more visual gags as well. So the songs shift a little bit.
And they're also, in the season 2, they're also a little bit more homage and parody-y, kind of.
Yeah.
Like they straight up do the episode with Kristen Wiig in it. It's basically the Piano Man.
Yeah.
Is the song he plays on the guitar.
Sure.
There's a lot of that, where like a Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Rip-off-ish.
Sure.
Homage, we'll say.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
The best joke, at least the one that I think I like the most, obviously, is the hip-hop-opotamus.
Mm-hmm.
My
lyrics are bottomless.
My lyrics are bottomless.
They call me the hip-hop-opotamus. My lyrics are bottomless.
It's such a throwaway moment, right? But it's just the look on his face.
He's serious.
Yeah. I guess not. Fantastic show.
The cast is incredible. I mean, obviously Jermaine and Brett, the main characters. The manager, Rhys Darby. Holy shit.
Fantastic.
Holy shit.
Works at the New Zealand consulate. But there's never anything to do, so he just manages
the posters in the background of there.
The posters are so good.
It's just like, it's the big rock.
Yeah.
It's just New Zealand. Rocks.
What if we add another exclamation point? I don't think it needs it. It's already got 3. I don't think it needs it.
And Kristen Shaw as the super fan,
God.
the obsessed stalker super fan.
Absolutely
She's just
crushes it.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I thought that was the interesting tidbit that I found out was the BBC radio version. Rhys Darby plays their manager, just has a different name in that. But the guy that played the band Stalker was actually Jimmy Carr.
Yes.
Which is really cool. I think that's really cool. Great shift, though. Shift to going with her, like, smelling them. You know, like when they're sitting in the van. What a great, that entire premise of she's married and he
like
just
a 50-year-old dude.
and he just, like, the one where she comes up and she spots them and runs out and talks to them. And he's like, we have to go. We've been here for 2 hours. It's time to go now. We found them. Congratulations. We have to go.
And it's a fitting end to the series at the end of season 2 where they're broke, evicted, can't pay their rent. They just move in with Doug and Kristen.
Fantastic. Any final thoughts on Flight of the Concords?
I love Dave.
Yes.
The character Dave
Yeah.
is, it's so hard to pick a favorite character from that show, but I think Dave might be my favorite character. In the episode where, with the camera phone, and Jermaine goes missing, and Britt and Murray are worried about him, and Dave's there, and Murray says that he's really worried about Jermaine. He maybe did.
Maybe did.
I just watched this. that might be the best bit. That might be the best bit.
Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. What did he maybe do? Well, he maybe did. Are you guys fucking with me?
He maybe did.
He maybe did what?
He maybe did.
Yeah, I know, but what did he maybe do?
He maybe did.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. What did he maybe do?
No, he maybe did.
Are you guys fucking with me?
What? Not alive, you know. Dead.
Oh.
I love it.
All right, let's get this episode wrapped up here, folks. Let's move into another show from 2007 that is just an absolute banger. This is Mad Men.
Okay.
Another one that I would love to play the theme song to. Actually, my son...
You could probably get away with that. That's just an actual song. That's just RJD2, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is. But those are the ones that they really like to get you with.
Okay.
No, there's no way. If I tried to do this, YouTube would absolutely flag that. And it's a hassle. It's a huge hassle because I have to upload it, then it has to scan it, then it flags it, and then I got to make the decision, do I go clip it out or do I let it erase it? It's a nightmare. So I'm better off just not having it. My son Maverick sat down and watched a couple episodes with me, and right away he said, that's an awesome opening sequence. He said most shows have shitty opening sequences. It's so precise and it tells you everything you need to know and then ends with just a sweet beat and then episode, here we go. It's awesome. I think it's one of the. I'm amazed that we didn't think about it when we did our TV theme songs.
Oh yeah, yeah. Set in mid-century, so all of the interior design, the offices, the apartments, the houses is just classic.
Yeah,
just good vibes. I love it. Don Draper, badass character. Absolutely loved him for about 2 or 3 seasons.
Okay.
Then it turns out he is an incredible piece of shit.
Oh, I think it's funny that you say that because I think this. So let's just dive deep in on this one. This is a phenomenal show. As it went, I started to lose interest towards the end of it because it goes from early 1960s and then by the end I think they do 1969. I think there's 7 seasons. They go through 9 years, or I guess 10 years if you're counting 60 as a year. But they jump ahead a little bit in some areas. But the very beginning of the show, I believe, is 1960, and it's essentially the 50s, right? It's the late 50s. It's very misogynist. It's very racist, but they do it in a way that is meant to show you this is a harsh world. These characters are flawed. This is the time frame we're in. And it's so interesting going back to it now because now you wouldn't get any of this, right? If a character did some of the things that they do at the beginning in episode 1, that would be an irredeemable character that would then have to be a villain for the rest of the show.
Yep. But if they're all villains, you have to like one of them.
And they all are villains. They all are villains because the time was messed up. But at the same time, that's life. There are so many things that we have that are complicated, and the best characters are complicated. Don Draper is a piece of shit. Callie sat down and watched the first episode with me. It gets all the way to the end, and it's revealed that he has a family, and she goes, "This guy's a piece of shit." And it was like, that's the fucking point. Yeah. Like, it's such a good first episode, the pilot, obviously. And where he goes is you just slowly unravel that this is a guy living a life that his major flaw is that he has created a world for himself that is very fragile. And by doing what he's doing, he is exposing himself to potentially having it all collapse. Real cool way of doing a show.
Spawned a meme.
Okay.
One of my faves.
Oh, yeah.
Where in the elevator where the young guy is like, he's crying and yelling at Don, and he's like, "I feel bad for you." And Don's like, "I don't think about you at all."
That has become one of our go-tos. Yeah. And I do think about that all the time. I'm not even worried about you one iota.
He thinks as he's thinking about the person he's saying in the fantasy in his brain that he doesn't think about at all.
I don't think about you at all.
I don't think about you at all. Only right now, in the scenario where I think I get the opportunity to say this fun line from a TV show to your face.
This show's going to go on forever. So Matthew Weiner is the showrunner for this. He wrote this while working on Becker, of all things. And
I remember enjoying the show Becker, but I was also a kid, and I also enjoyed the show 2.5 Men, which was made by the guy who made The Big Bang Theory, so I'm kind of messed up.
Was that Ted Danson? Becker?
Ted Danson, yeah. I remember liking it as well. I think it's probably one that you can it's probably like Spin City, right?
Sure.
You could probably watch it, probably consume it, you could probably like it, but at some point you'd probably be like, all right, there's better things to do with my life. But yeah, it was a very popular show. Ted Danson is awesome. Yeah. A ton of fun to do. Yeah. But yeah, he was a writer on Becker. That's when he wrote the initial pilot. It got turned down by everybody, everywhere. I think it took 8 years for this to actually happen. So it was like 2000 when he wrote it.
Wow.
Or maybe 99, I guess, if we're talking 8 years and this is 2007. We'll try and do math. But then he goes and he's on Sopranos. So he's a writer for Sopranos, goes through that whole thing. And interesting how this all comes about. AMC at the time is just classic movies.
Right.
That's all they're showing is classic movies. And so somebody in their higher ups said, we need to get into, and I think they were thinking more of like a Lifetime type of thing. Like we should do a movie every week. 1 hour movie every week, kind of Lifetimey is what I think they're going at. and somebody said, I happen to have the perfect script. Just happens to fit into what we do, which is classic movies. Just happens to be exactly what we're talking about. And that's how this initially got started. AMC then took that and they tried to find a partner to do the pilot. Everyone turned them down. Could not find a company to partner with them to make the pilot.
Really?
So they ended up having to make the pilot completely on their own. About $3.3 million to shoot the pilot.
Oh, you're committed at that point.
And that's why nobody would want to take the show on. It's just too expensive. But what's funny about that is when you hear about like $3.3 million, you're like, oh, that's a lot of freaking money. But when you're trying to make a television show like this, there's no money at all. So they had to make concessions to a lot of stuff. The one that I found that was really funny was there's a train scene at the end of the first episode where he's going home, and they had no money left at that point because it's the very end of what they were shooting. And so they basically had to just like put a piece of glass up in front of Don Draper. And it's, if you like really look at it, there's like a curtain and like
the end of Under Siege 2.
Yep, playing it. Yeah, pretty much. I was surprised you didn't get a toaster up in the side. But yeah, it's just the shoestring budget by the very, very end. But a cool thing. They shoot it. 8 months go by before they're able to find someone to partner with them to then pick it back up. So in the process, you lose some of the characters as well. One of the things I found that was really interesting about going back is there's a point in the very first episode where, and I'm forgetting what her name is, the redheaded lady. We'll just call her Red.
The slut.
Okay. Well, it was the 60s.
I think you could have the redheaded lady.
yeah, we could have. Come on. So she is taking Peggy around the office, and she introduces Peggy to the nervous system of the entire place. And it's the switchboard, which is crazy. A switchboard is, if you think about it, this is 1960, right? Think about all the stuff that we had. But telephones, you still had to have someone.
Yep, this cord goes over here.
To go over here to connect you to where you're going. Crazy. So there's just 3 ladies in a closet plugging the phones in. And I thought it was fantastic because there are 3 of them and super interesting. The first one is a lady who goes on to do a couple things in shows. Her name is Zandy Hardig. The thing I found was that she's divorced to David Wayne. Do you remember who David Wayne was? Red Hot American Summer. Anyways, moving on. The second one is actually from Flight of the Concords. You know what I'm talking about?
Kristen Shaw.
Kristen Shaw.
Interesting.
Is right in the middle there.
Huh.
Has the speaking part and everything.
Big year for her.
Big year for her.
And Flight.
I couldn't find if that's why she wasn't able to continue, because that she then goes to Flight. I'm assuming that's more than likely what happened, but I didn't find a direct connection saying that was the case. But the third one is Flo from Progressive.
Oh,
whoa.
Was she wearing the thing?
She's got 1960s glasses on, but as soon as she opens her mouth, you're like, oh my God, it's Flo. Interesting to note that of those 3, 2 of them just disappear and become completely different characters. But Flo is actually in that first season. She's in there a couple times where she continues on as a character, which is totally bizarre because I don't remember seeing her in anything else.
I saw her in an insurance commercial once.
Quite a few of them before she hit it big. Also very interesting to note that there is a point in the pilot when Pete Campbell is talking about his wife and he holds up a picture, and it's the wife's name is Trudy in the show.
Yeah.
But because it's the pilot and she didn't have a role in it, they hadn't cast the actress yet. And so it's actually just a picture of the guy's mother, his actual mother. And so that was kind of fun. That's not at all the actress, but they didn't have any reason to cast the actress yet because she didn't have a role yet.
Yeah, that's Annie from Community, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great show. My main issue with it is that it tries to do the thing that I hate more than anything is where were these characters when? I hate that shit. So the show really devolves into that at some point.
They get the JFK assassination and moon landing.
Yeah,
they go back to Don Draper back in the Korean War and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it starts off and it's very much these characters are flawed. Let's take you through this journey. I did like that the cast had no idea where this was going to go. So they're like, is this just going to be like a plucky group of people that are solving this week's dilemma? Yeah. How do we get the advertising right? And instead it's no, this guy has got a dark secret and everybody does something messed up that then they're trying to cover their own tracks, which is really cool. But I don't like that it slowly devolves into this is what the 60s were, man. And where were these characters when this happened? That stuff to me is really not that interesting.
You see that you've got your hands full. You don't want to be bothered. It's nice meeting you.
Hey, you have great legs. I bet you Mr. Draper would like them if he could see them. Sterling Cooper, thank you so much for holding how my director called.
All right, should we wrap this baby up? We got one more thing to talk about. Gabe, you have said many times that by this point you had children.
I was with child.
And you, well, with child,
I know.
with child, it makes it sound like you're carrying it. But you were consuming a lot of kids' television.
Watch Nickelodeon, watch Disney, and 2007. You're talking, some absolute gems of programming. And I know one you want to talk. I got a couple more, but the one you want to talk about first. Do you want to go first with Phineas?
No, let's start with the other ones first.
Well, first, I want to apologize to Selena Gomez on her impending deportation.
Jesus Christ.
But Wizards of Waverly Place
Yes.
debuted in 2007.
Yes.
My daughter loved that show. We watched a lot of that.
Yep.
And maybe my favorite kids show that my daughter consumed and my boys have also both consumed, iCarly debuted in 2007.
Yeah.
That was a good program.
So I'll say this. This is interesting because, we both have kids that are around the same age. But from a time frame of my kids' lives, I would say that they would put a finger on a lot of these shows as being like iconic to their childhoods. iCarly for sure. Wizards of Waverly Place for sure. Like Zach and Cody was around that same time frame as a little bit before. Hannah Montana.
I prefer Drake and Josh over Zach.
Drake and Josh as well. I would Nickelodeon. Turns out
Dan Schneider made some good programs.
Oh no!
but way out of line. Way out of line. Turns out, looking back, not a good place for kids.
Why is she dumping milk all over herself?
However, some really good programming. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Those are some bangers. But the one to come out of this year, 100%.
With an all-time great theme song.
Yes.
Phineas and Ferb.
100%. Now you, Scott, being 5 years younger and not having been with child, probably don't have the same connection to this as we do.
So what's weird is I don't have the same connection to Phineas and Ferb, but all those other shows that you mentioned, except for iCarly, Wizards of Waverly Place, Zach and Cody.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
I watched those.
Yeah.
With my girlfriend at the time when I was like 22.
They're good shows.
And she just always had those on at the time. That was the bright point in that relationship.
Gotta watch some
I had to
Nickelodeon.
watch old Disney shows. Tune myself out from this bitch.
Oh my God. But I will say that's why I wanted to bring it up, because we don't talk about a lot of kids shows, but since we're talking like nostalgia, there's a whole group of people that these shows are like iconic to their childhoods. And I will say, especially Phineas and Ferb, that's the one that came on and I was like, this is legit funny stuff. This is a very good show. Turned it on last night with my youngest two. They've obviously seen it before, but I went back to season 1 and immediately my son starts singing the theme song.
Yep.
Iconic, but they laughed really hard multiple times. You want to know what my favorite bit from Phineas and Ferb is?
Perry the Platypus.
Well, yes.
Returning at the end of every episode.
My favorite bit in the entire show, and it was the thing that sold me on this show 100%.
Hold on. Is there a giant dragon?
It is the giant robots. So the evil scientist, Doofenshmirtz, versus Perry the Platypus.
I'm supposed to surrender, which I might do if we weren't standing in the middle of an evil weapons expo.
And behind them are two giant robots. And so they both run to a giant robot. Doofenshmirtz picks his, Perry picks his. And the joke is, Perry is in a giant dragon. And Doofenshmirtz is in a giant Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh, God.
And so he says, is there any way we can change? Can we trade? Can we trade? So they trade, and then immediately Perry the Platypus shoots lasers out of Queen Elizabeth I's eyes. And Douchebur says,
I didn't know she had laser eyes. I want to trade back. Well, yours may have laser eyes, but mine breathes.
and it just so happens that he's sitting inside the mouth of the dragon that breathes fire and then breathes fire for too long, which is my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
It does the one beat too long. And then he just says, well, that's a terrible design.
That was a stupid design.
And it was at that moment that I realized, okay, this show is freaking great. These people know what they're doing. Great show, though. Great premise.
And it could go on forever because the episodes aren't tied together.
No.
It's just they all stand alone on their own.
I know what we're going to do today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic show. Perry the Platypus, great. You know, so many gags you can do because all he does is put a hat on.
Mm-hmm.
He's Perry the Platypus. Otherwise, he's just a platypus. It's great. It's fantastic. And a very interesting show. Okay, final thoughts.
Great show.
Great theme song. It explains exactly what is happening.
Gabe Johnson is a huge fan of theme songs that tell you beat by beat. There are 104 days of summer vacation. Then school comes around to end it. So what are we going to do? We got to find a way to spend it. That's it. That's all we need to know, folks.
I like that.
Like maybe.
Is that Bowling for Soup?
Oh, God, I don't know. Let's not talk about Bowling for Soup. They're finally done now.
No, they're coming back for the Warped Tour. 30th anniversary Warped Tour.
I thought they just said they were done.
No, one
the
of
guy
their
died.
I don't think he died. I think he just can't tour with them anymore because he's too fat.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the reason. But.
Well, I think I said diabetes. Because I keep calling, and I hate to do this, folks, but I keep calling them Bowling for Cheeseburgers, and I need to stop doing that because they all got really big. The one guy was big to start with, but now they're all really big. They're very big. That's rude. We shouldn't be rude.
Yeah, they need to start bowling for salad.
Maybe jogging instead of bowling.
Yeah, they're not bowling for soup anymore. They're jogging for salad.
Jogging for salad. Oh no! All right. Anyway, sorry.
Yes.
So if you were here
awesome.
so if you were here for Big Bang Theory and for Bowling for Soup,
jogging for salad.
It was nice having you with us. On our way out, I'm just gonna say shout out to the Whitest Kids You Know.
Hell yeah.
Great show. Actually, Maverick had said that he has seen clips from it on like Instagram and stuff and on TikTok. I did go back and watch the first episode of that, and ladies and gentlemen, that was rough. So I do love that show. I hold that show very dear to my heart. It was
time and place.
Yeah, they're the whitest kids you know. Okay, just a bunch of white kids trying to do some racing.
And it was clip number 2 is a rap where he is Hitler, and it's not. He's not so much making fun of Hitler so much as he's like actually Hitler rapping, which was an interesting choice. Clip 3 is a guy pulls poop out of his pants and then holds it in his hand at a meeting, and that was the entire bit. The entire bit is this man. This man is holding a turd in his hand.
Poop again.
It was poop again. I love Whitest Kids You Know, and thinking back on it, there are some super funny bits from that show. So tip of the cap to it. Maybe find the clips. Maybe find the good clips. It was hard to go back to. Okay. Final thoughts, 2007.
Better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
God, I don't know. I think it rocks. I think I enjoyed the music coming out of that time frame. Kanye West, there's a lot of hip hop music coming out. I believe Jay-Z, American Gangster is the same year. I believe, is there a Lupe Fiasco one that comes out? A Lil Wayne one that comes out? There's a lot of hip hop that comes out at that same time frame. The news, you can't go wrong with a guy hitting dingers and cell phones changing the world. You can't go wrong. And then, of course...
But murder-suicide is kind of a bit of a downer.
But that's you. That's you. That's what you bring to these episodes. Like, I didn't put that on the list.
People died, and you're sad, Gabe.
I'm showing empathy, Scott.
My favorite part of this of the Gabe Johnson news from it is always like, here's something that really sucks. However, there's some conspiracy to this as well. There's always a conspiracy.
Maybe that's not what happened.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 2007 movies come up next time. We are going to go through No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, a handful of other ones. Hot Rod, throw that on your list.
Yes.
Hot Rod is, oh God, I can't wait to talk about Hot Rod. And then Superbad as well.
I still have to watch Superbad. I watched Smoking Aces the other night.
Okay, Smoking Aces. Yep. Get that. Oh, you should have brought that because we got to get Gabe through that as well.
All right. I gotta get that.
So those are the big ones that we're going to go through. And then, a great year for film. And if you've got something for us for 2008, start throwing it out now. We've already got some suggestions. Starting to get a lot more feedback from people on stuff online.
People really want us to listen to commentary.
They really, evidently that's becoming our thing is the commentary because it went. Those shorts have blown up because it's such a unique thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a unique
and it's something
thing
nobody can get anymore.
You can't get it. It doesn't exist anymore. And I have been a consumer of commentaries forever. That is like, I'm going to watch this movie and then I'm going to watch the commentary.
When I started buying my own DVDs, the commentary was always
on.
Always had to be consumed.
Always on. So shoot that stuff over to us. And then next week we are back with a draft. So we'll be getting that ready for you guys as well. And then right back into the news and whatnot. So lastly, before we go, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up on Name of the Year. We're actually running out of time on Name of the Year. So if you have a name, an actual person, real life person from the news from 2024, shoot that over to us. We will get that on the list for Name of the Year. That will be probably the first episode of April or so, somewhere in that range.
Ooh, can we add P. Diddy?
As a name of historical reference, sure.
He was in the news.
He was in the news. But ladies and gentlemen, shoot those over to us because, we're running out of time on those. So we've got a handful of them already selected, but we got to get those going. So we will select the 2025 Name of the Year. So
hell yeah.
And with that, we're done. Last week, we did the secret sound.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about sound effects from movies. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones that came up was the sound from Predator. And I didn't take the time to look up where the sound from Predator came from.
Oh.
Where do you think the sound from Predator came from?
That weird little...
That clicking
clickety
noise.
clackety?
Yeah.
Beatles.
Water?
Beatles or water? So it is the imitation of a crab that is on its back.
That's Beatles and water. Yeah. That's like exactly Beatles and water.
That's exactly right. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm fucking impressed.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Do you want to know who did it? Peter Cullen.
Peter Cullen.
I am Optimus Prime.
The voice of Optimus Prime.
What?
Was it sound tech?
The sound that is in the movie Predator as the Predator is the voice of Peter Cullen.
Doing a crab on its back in the water?
Doing a crab on its back.
I don't know if I can do them now, but I thought, okay.
Okay.
Optimus Prime.
Did he do anything else for the movie?
I mean, I'm sure he'd made other noises for them. Sure.
I doubt it. It was probably just that one.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
That's wild.
That's of all things.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, it's like a wood block. You know, like those wood blocks you like
sure.
run the thing down for, like somebody in the background of a fish concert or something. No, it is the voice of Peter Cullen. He is the Predator.
That just doesn't sound possible.
Well, it is.
That's a voice?
It's a voice. It is his voice. He made that noise with his mouth.
Yeah.
Wonder what else he can do with his mouth.
I imagine women love it.
Well, folks, that's the end of that. moron.